Our pack followed an ancient law. If a she-wolf wasn't bonded by the age of 23, the pack had the right to assign her a mate, regardless of her will. Felix is my childhood sweetheart and fated mate, the alpha of the Moonclaw pack. But he postponed our bonding ceremony and is holding a mating ceremony with an Omega first, all because of that law. Felix pitted Omega, Valentina, who was already 22, afraid she would be matched with a bad mate. But he seemed to forget that after waiting for him for 5 years, I would turn 23 next month. My mother and I begged him to reconsider our mating ceremony, only to be met with Felix's dilemma attitude. You've waited this many years. What's a little longer? Besides me, who else would choose Valentina? Clara, you still have parents, but Valentina is poor. She only has me. Please wait. After the mate bond ceremony with Valentina, I'll break it and then bond with you. Later, in order to prevent me from bonding with a slave, my mother hurriedly chose a mate for me. Coincidentally, my mate bond ceremony and Felix and Valentina's mate bond ceremony were on the same day. On the day I was being taken off in a luxury car, I passed by Felix handing him ceremonial flowers. When he saw me, he suddenly shifted into a wolf and blocked the car insane. Even after being hit and vomiting blood, he stared intensely at me and asked why I was wearing a wedding dress. Mother, I don't plan to mate Felix anymore. My mother's hand trembled, and the vase in her hand fell straight to the ground and shattered. Have you thought this through? Of course, I knew why my mother was so shocked. Because the birth rate is continuously declining, the pack stipulates that female wolves must bond before the age of 23, and the male wolf must bond before the age of 25. Otherwise, the pack will forcibly assign them a mate. Next month is my birthday, and I will be 23. If I don't bond with my childhood sweetheart Felix, I can only bond with a stranger. Marrying a stranger means entrusting your future to the unknown. I thought my mother would scold me or tell me to endure it, but she sighed. I thought Felix would be a good mate, but I didn't expect him to be so cold. Clara, don't worry. Even if it's only for a month, your mother and father will find you a good mate. My eyes involuntarily reddened. I always thought so before, but I was wrong. Felix and I have known each other since childhood, and we can be considered childhood sweethearts. The first time he saw me, Felix grabbed my sleeve tightly. He said, "You are so beautiful. I will protect you as my little sister well in the future, and not let anyone bully you." Felix's father joked, "A real man keeps his word." Sure, little Felix nodded firmly. From then on, whenever he encountered something delicious or fun, he would always think of me first. When I was young, I was playful and restless, unable to sit still and study at school, and when the teacher punished me with a whip, Felix would always take the blows for me. I don't know when my friendship with him turned into love, but when we were 18, we recognized that we were fated mates for each other. He said he wanted to be with me forever, that he recognized me as his only mate, and I waited with a joyful heart. The first year, he participated in the Pack Alliance Warrior competition, saying that if he achieved good results, he would get engaged to me. The second year, he became the new alpha of the Moonclaw pack, saying that once he settled down, he would give me the best of everything. The third year, his position became increasingly stable, saying that once everything was stable, he would immediately hold a mating ceremony with me. Year after year, until 5 years later, when I turned 22 years and 10 months, our mating ceremony was finally set. At that time, I naively thought that Felix was delaying it to give me a better life. But it wasn't until Valentina appeared that I realized I was terribly wrong. Valentina was an orphaned Omega whom I rescued. When Felix was racing horses, she suddenly ran out and was almost injured by Felix's horse. Felix originally planned to give her some money and be done with it, but I was afraid that his casual handling of the matter would tarnish his reputation. So I kindly took her in and cared for Valentina. From then on, Valentina stayed with me all the time and slowly became familiar with Felix. Felix said, "You are kind-hearted. I can't bear to see you taking care of her alone." But gradually, I found that Felix and Valentina were becoming closer. I tried to talk to Felix, saying that Valentina was a female after all and needed to maintain a distance from her. But Valentina suddenly rushed over and knelt down heavily, her eyes red and tearful. "Clara, I dare not have any fantasies about Felix. I only ask you to let me stay by his side. Even if it's just as a maid, I'm willing." Felix's face immediately darkened. "Clara, how do you usually use your position to bully Valentina that she's so humble and pleading in front of you like this?" "Valentina and I were just having a normal interaction. You are so jealous. Who would dare to bond with you?" I stood there blankly, watching him leave, half embracing Valentina. That day, it happened to be on the street, so our conversation was heard by everyone, and everyone discussed it. Weren't Felix and Clara matched? Why did he publicly reprimand her? Felix is alpha. He can choose whoever he wants. How dare Clara defy his orders? Clara is almost 23. If Felix doesn't choose her, she'll have no one else. I'm afraid she'll have to match a slave. The chattering opinions were like sharp knives stabbing into my flesh. I covered my ears and ran home desperately. Felix, who once said he would always protect me, had now become the culprit who hurt me. I don't know why the gentle and considerate man has disappeared, and I must endure unprecedented hurt. I ran in a daze and unknowingly reached the West. Market. This place mostly sells things that women like. Males rarely set foot here, but Felix could ignore the strange looks of others and accompany me here. This place is full of memories of Felix and me. I subconsciously walked towards a familiar place, but stopped in my tracks the next second. Two familiar figures stood beneath the wishing tree, where people in the pack often carved their names, wishing for long-lasting love or the safety of their families. Valentina and Felix were standing close. They stood under the wishing tree, carving their names on the tree. He and I once carved our names on the wishing tree as lovers, and now I wonder under what guise he and Valentina carved their names. "Valentina, I promise I definitely won't let you be easily bonded by a stranger. I'll let everyone know that you're the one I want to protect." Before the man could finish speaking, Valentina moved even closer to him, looking at him with a moved expression. I stared blankly. Felix also subconsciously moved closer to her. "What about Clara? She's your fated mate. She still has family, but you are so pitiful. In that case, we can only wrong her a little. I can banish her from the pack first, and then hold her mating ceremony with me later. That way, she won't be able to bully you anymore in the future." I felt cold tears sliding down my cheeks. My heart felt like it was being clenched tightly, hurting so much that I could barely stand. I stared at them intently. Through my blurred vision, I saw Valentina's provocative look. They left. I walked towards the wishing tree to the name carved by Felix and me. The name had a braided. I cut off the bark on which our names were engraved with a knife. I just stared blankly at it when suddenly a drop of water fell on my hand. I raised my hand to wipe it away and realized that I had already been in tears without knowing it. I remembered being in love with Felix for 5 years. He always treated me with polite respect, never crossing any boundaries, not even holding my hand. Back then, I thought he respected me and was a worthy person to choose. But until today, I realized that love is inherently uncontrollable, inherently maddening. All the previous signs were just proof that Felix wasn't firm enough in his choice of me. I threw the bark into the water, and it disappeared instantly, just like our love once was. I will no longer love you, Felix. I wiped away the last tear and slowly turned around. Behind me, I met a pair of familiar eyes. Felix was looking at me with an expression of surprise. Instinctively, I clenched my fists, not wanting him to see my wretched state. I had stumbled and bumbled along this path. My once perfectly styled hair was now messy and disheveled, and my face, wet with tears, was pale. I looked completely lost. I don't know if Felix saw me throw the bark into the water with my own hands. Maybe he did, but I suppose he wouldn't care. I endured the sadness and desperately told myself that this was the last time I would shed tears for this man. Felix looked pained, which made me momentarily think he still had feelings for me, but then he said, "You heard everything I said, Clara. Valentina needs my protection. She is our friend. We should help her out. I want to mate with her first. But don't worry, I'll mate with you too. You're still my only Luna." Looking at his condescending face, full of charity, I suddenly felt a sense of clarity. "So, this is the man I've loved for 5 years." I said, "I will not mate with you, and I won't leave the pack." Felix's face darkened. He said grimly, "If you don't leave the pack, are you just planning to form a mate bond with a stranger? Please listen to me. Leave the pack for now. And after 3 months, when Valentina and I break the bond, we'll hold our mating ceremony. This is best for everyone, right?" My eyes widened suddenly. I never expected Felix to say such a thing. Felix really knew my pain, knew how to hurt me deeply with just a few words. Perhaps my face was too pale. Felix also realized he had gone too far, and he sighed. I said, "Too much. Clara, please be patient. I'll give you the most spectacular mating ceremony." "Clara, don't be willful. We're holding the mating ceremony next month, and both you and Valentina will be by my side. I won't favor anyone." These words sounded incredibly hurtful to me. I almost wanted to question him, but haven't you always been favoring Valentina? Thinking about it, Felix's heart was inherently biased, so naturally he wouldn't think any of this mattered. I remembered the bonfire festival day, what Valentina did while Felix was away. Valentina was no longer timid as she used to be. Her eyes were full of smugness. She said, "Clara, so what if you are a high and mighty Beta family's daughter? Felix can only be mine." After saying that, Valentina jumped into the water without hesitation. Someone fell into the water. Someone fell into the water. I was startled and wanted to go forward to see, but I was pushed away by a great force. I fell heavily to the ground, and when I looked up, I realized that Felix was desperately swimming towards Valentina, disregarding everything. Valentina was quickly rescued. She was wearing a light-colored thin dress, which was almost transparent after being wet by the water, and everyone around her was whispering and staring at her. Valentina hugged her chest with both hands and cried like a pear blossom in the rain. Felix didn't hesitate to take off his coat and hug Valentina tightly. He glared at everyone with sharp eyes. Everyone knew he was alpha, and no one dared to displease him, let alone covet his things, so they immediately looked away. On the day of the grand event, Felix picked up the scantily clad Valentina and left in front of everyone, completely forgetting about my existence. I sat on the ground, my foot was twisted and swollen, my hands were also scratched, and I was in a terrible mess. Felix had sent my maid away before, and it wasn't until it was almost dawn that my worried parents found me. After returning, I fell seriously ill, but this time Felix didn't come to see me. 10 days later, Felix came to my door again, but the first thing he said was that he wanted to hold a mating ceremony with Valentina first. "Clara, what are you thinking about?" The memories were abruptly interrupted. I looked up at Felix and said, "It's late. I should go home." I didn't want to cause more trouble, and I was too tired to argue with him. He seemed surprised that I was so calm and indifferent, and couldn't help but be stunned. I shook off his hand and slowly walked home, leaving him alone in the same spot. The next day, I went to the Pack's Best mating dress shop. After setting the mating ceremony date with Felix, I specially hired the best tailor to sew my mating dress. Every accessory on the dress was personally selected and repeatedly optimized. I wasn't planning to bond with Felix, so I thought I'd get my mating dress back first. But now the owner of the mating dress shop looked embarrassed and said, "But that mating dress was taken away by Felix the day before yesterday. I thought Felix was taking it for you. I'm so sorry, Mississippi." My heart slowly sank. I naturally knew why Felix would take my mating dress. Felix is holding a mating ceremony with Valentina soon, and hasn't prepared anything in a hurry, so he probably doesn't have a suitable mating dress. The maid next to me was so angry that she stomped her feet. She held my hand and spoke with a crying voice. "Miss, that's a bully. Let's go get the mating dress back." But I only said, "I don't want something that's been dirted, but he will face consequences for doing these things." I returned home with the maid, and as soon as I entered the door, I saw an old Omega with an Omega man sitting in the hall with an obsequious expression. The man looked extremely ugly, with a large beard on his face. I asked, puzzled, "Father, Mother, who are they?" The old Omega saw me smiling happily and said, "So this is Clara. I'm your distant aunt, a relative from a bit further away. I heard that Felix doesn't want you, and I was afraid you'd be assigned to some unreliable one, so I specifically brought my son here for you to choose. You two can mate." I was shocked and looked at the Omega in disbelief. "Throw these two lowly Omegas out of my house." My mother immediately became angry. The woman panicked when she saw the security guards approaching. "Don't touch me! Clara, you should wake up. Everyone in the pack knows that you and Felix have already matched. Besides my son, who else would want to choose you? Now Felix has announced that he will hold a mating ceremony with Valentina. You wouldn't still be hoping to bond with Felix. No one wants to choose her anymore. My son is honest and reliable. After bonding with Clara, he can continue to stay with the Beta family. Then Clara will still be by your side. Wouldn't that be a great thing?" "Yes, I will definitely treat Clara well." I looked at the greedy look in the Omega man's eyes, and endless sadness welled up in my heart. I shouted through my tears, "You bad guys, get out of my house." The person immediately said, "You dare to scold us? My son being willingness to choose you is already an honor for you. What if she scolds you? Even pulling out your tongue would be what you deserve." A deep male voice sounded. My whole body stiffened. I turned around to look, and the person who came was Felix. Felix approached the two with a gloomy face, his anger still lingering, his aura imposing, scaring them into sitting on the ground with a thud. Felix said seriously, "Clara is the mate I marked, and that's an unchangeable fact. If I hear about you scheming against her again, you will be punished." With a wave of his hand, the two men scrambled away on their hands and knees. A moment of silence fell over the hall. Felix looked at me with a smile. "Clara, are you all right?" Looking at the concerned expression on his face, I couldn't help but feel a little dazed, as if he were still the person who couldn't bear to see me wronged and would protect me. But the next second, Felix handed me a mating ceremony invitation. "Valentina and I will be holding our mating ceremony on the 8th. Clara, if you'd like to come." I heard my father sigh deeply. The mating ceremony invitation was as red as blood, with Felix and Valentina's names written side by side. Took the mating ceremony invitation and forced myself to speak without a crying tone. "My family is quite busy recently. I might not have time." Felix asked, "Busy?" I said calmly. "Father is preparing for my mating ceremony. To find me a new mate." Felix's originally surprised and uncertain expression immediately cleared. He looks very satisfied. He thought I was waiting for his mating ceremony. I watched him leave in a hurry and slowly closed my eyes. Due to the short time, Father ultimately chose a mate for me. However, he is not in the Moonclaw pack, and I need to go to another pack. The alpha from the neighboring pack came on his own as soon as he heard my mother was looking for a mate for me. I don't know why, but he's better than a slave. Besides, he's very handsome in the photos I've seen. Coincidentally, the day of my mating ceremony is the same day as Felix's mating ceremony. That day it was drizzling. I was helped onto the mating ceremony car. I was getting farther away from home. Suddenly, I heard a commotion. Felix's mating ceremony procession. The person in that mating ceremony car was wearing the mating dress that originally belonged to me. Passing by Felix's mating ceremony procession, I only felt dazed. Fortunately, I was about to leave soon. The driver quickly drove the car away from the Moonclaw pack. On the day of Felix's mating ceremony, he stood at the entrance for a long time. So long that the elder came to ask, "Alpha, if we don't start soon, we'll miss the full moon." Felix frowned. "Why haven't I seen Clara?" The elder was stunned. "What did you say?" Felix's eyes were dark, and there was a hint of unwillingness and madness on his face. "She cares about me so much. She would definitely come to see my mating ceremony. I wonder which corner she's hiding in, crying at this moment." The elder's face turned pale, and he awkwardly said, "But Clara is also holding her mating ceremony today. The procession has probably already left the pack." Felix was shocked and suddenly shifted into a wolf, running away without towards the direction I left. Valentina called out to him desperately from behind, but he never looked back. I drowsily fell asleep leaning against the mating ceremony car, and only realized we had arrived when I woke up. A big hand opened the car door and extended towards me. I hesitated for a moment before gently placing my hand in his. The man led me out of the car. I was a little nervous and stumbled, stepping on my own dress, and almost fell, but luckily he was quick to react and caught me. I was held securely in his arms. His strong hands gave me a sense of security. A low chuckle reached my ears. I felt a little embarrassed and tried to walk carefully, suppressing my shyness. My father once mentioned this mate to me. It's said that the man is called Attekus, the alpha of the lupus vigor pack. He's known to be gentle and kind with a good reputation. I just don't know why he would choose me. Powerful families in the lupus vigor pack all want their daughters to become this alpha's Luna, but he always says they are not his fated mate, so he has never bonded. My father said, his family and ours have had dealings before, so we know each other well. If things don't go well between you two in the future, just come back. Your father will take care of you for the rest of your life. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I couldn't help but kneel down and cry, "Father, I don't want to leave you. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. If I hadn't made the wrong choice with Felix, if I hadn't kept delaying, how would I have implicated my father in having to humbly search for a mate for me everywhere?" The day before leaving home, I vented all my grievances and resentment. My mother held me and cried with me. In the middle of the night, I woke up and felt someone lovingly stroke my head. Just like when I was a child, there was always someone to shield me from the wind and rain. But I know that I may never have this kind of care again. I followed Attekus into the mating ceremony hall and completed the ritual according to the procedure. Only when we were alone did I truly carefully look at my mate. He is very handsome, perhaps because he is wearing an ornate mating dress. He looks very energetic. My gaze fell on his sharp, thin face, and I couldn't help but be lost in thought. This man has a pair of deep, beautiful eyes. His features are extremely well defined, and there is a small mole on the tip of his nose. He smiled softly when he saw me staring at him, and I felt a little shy, hastily lowering my head. Attekus wasn't annoyed, and simply reached out to help me remove the heavy crown. "Is it heavy? I'll take it off for you." His movements were very efficient, and after removing the crown, he also wanted to help me take off the elaborate mating dress. I felt his care for me, which was a bit unexpected. I was a little embarrassed by his actions and said I could do it myself, but this mating dress was so gorgeous and cumbersome that I couldn't take it off after trying for a long time. Attekus finally couldn't bear it any longer and smiled lightly. "I'll do it. This mating dress is indeed cumbersome. It's hard to do alone." He easily untied my belt, and I couldn't help but ask, "Are you very familiar with this mating dress?" Attekus smiled. "I personally customized it for you. It was a bit rushed and probably not perfect." I was speechless for a moment. It had only been 10 days from when I became his mate to the mating ceremony, and he was able to rush out such an exquisite and gorgeous mating dress. "Thank you. I'm a little touched." That night, Attekus slept beside me, but didn't touch me. He explained to me that I didn't know him at all before, so I must be a little scared. He suggested waiting until we were familiar with each other, liked each other, and then took the next step. I felt a little embarrassed in my heart, but nodded obediently. I slept very well all night. Next day, I followed Attekus to get to know his family. Attekus' father was kind, and Attekus' mother was also very gentle. Attekus' parents treated me very gently and asked me caringly if I was getting used to it. After receiving an affirmative answer, they instructed Attekus to treat me well. Attekus nodded solemnly. I feel relieved because Attekus's family is easy to get along with. "This is your first time at Lupus Vigorpack. Would you like to go for a walk with me?" I nodded. He took out a coat and carefully put it on me, then took my hand and led me out. The weather in Lupus Vigorpack was humid, and there were many species I had never seen before. I couldn't help but feel a little strange and looked around. But in the blink of an eye, I saw Attekus holding a huge bouquet of lavender. I looked at him in surprise and asked, "Is this for me?" "Absolutely." I happily accepted it and smiled at him. Attekus seemed to pause for a moment. I was about to ask him what was wrong when I felt a sharp gust of wind. The next second, Attekus suddenly reached out and pulled me into his arms. I crashed into his arms, surrounded by the rich scent of lavender. His embrace was warm, his heartbeat was fast, and I was even a little captivated. But I quickly came to my senses and, holding his arm, looked back. Behind me, Felix was staring at us with red eyes. His face looked unusually haggard, his eyes were bloodshot, and I heard him say almost through gritted teeth, "Clara, I've been looking for you for so long. I finally found you." I was startled, instinctively feeling that Felix was acting strangely, but Attekus was still there, and I was afraid Felix would say something bad. So I said seriously, "Felix, I don't think I have anything to say to you." Felix looked at me in surprise. "Do you have nothing to say to me? Clara, what about our 5 years of relationship? Does that count as nothing to say?" "You, Felix." Before I could finish speaking, Attekus suddenly said, "I guess you heard the news of Clara and me mated and came especially to congratulate us. It's just a pity you're a day late and missed yesterday's ceremony." Felix frowned and glared fiercely at Attekus. Attekus ignored Felix's hostility and continued gently, "How about I treat you to a meal now?" Attekus's words were incredibly considerate. Those who happened to be passing by and watching the scene, seeing that it was a reunion of old friends, also went back to their own business. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief and felt a little touched. Attekus was so thoughtful that He quickly thought of protecting my reputation in Lupus Vigor Pack and keeping my past a secret. Felix followed us seriously. Entering the private room, Attekus naturally ordered a lavish lunch and invited Felix to sit down. But Felix wasn't happy. Instead, he said mockingly, "You don't need to act like the host. Clara and I have been in love for 5 years. You have no place here." Attekus frowned. "Happened between you before. Clara is my Luna now." "Felix, who do you think you are now?" Felix's face was gloomy. "You screwed everything. If it weren't for you, Clara would be my Luna." Hearing Felix's words, Attekus's gentle smile vanished, and he asked impolitely, "Then why did you allow someone to take advantage of the situation? What were you doing at the time?" Felix was momentarily speechless. I finally spoke. "Felix, please go back. Now, I just want to live the rest of my life happily with Attekus." Felix said in disbelief, "But you don't love him. How can you be happy with someone you don't love? Only I can give you happiness." I said calmly, speaking the words in my heart, "But I don't love you either." "No way. We grew up together. We've been together for 5 years. So, you can see that I don't love you now." I interrupted him sharply, and for a moment, the private room was silent. After a while, Felix's hoarse voice sounded. "How is it possible that you don't love me? We had so many good times. Are you still angry about Valentina?" But holding a mating ceremony with her was something I tried to help her with. His voice was filled with a trace of confusion and deep regret. "Clara, I'm sorry for you, but I've protected Valentina for so long. If I don't bond with her, what will happen to her? Everyone in the pack knows she is mine. If she chooses someone else in the future, her mate will definitely not treat her well." I just smiled. "What about me? The whole pack knows you and I are each other's fated mate. You're considering her so much. Why not think about me like this?" Felix showed a guilty expression. I just smiled. That day under the wishing tree, you and Valentina carved each other's names together. "Felix, please ask yourself honestly, are you really just protecting her instead of loving her? Valentina has confessed her love to you more than once. Did you ever reject her?" Valentina expressed her love for Felix several times. At first, Felix was a little impatient and repeatedly emphasized that he only loved me. But from some point on, he gradually stopped refuting her and even looked at Valentina with a helpless, doting expression. I protested a few times, but Felix always said, "Clara, she has no family and is a weak wolf. Of course, I should take care of her. Besides, she's still young. A young girl's feelings are always pure and passionate. But she's only 1 year younger than me." At the time, after hearing his protective words, I immediately retorted to him. But Felix just said impatiently, "You have the Beta family to protect you. Do the pack elders dare to really rush into your home, forcibly capture you, and force you to choose a mate you don't love?" But Felix never thought that the pack's laws were not to be challenged. Although my father is a Beta, he cannot compete with the law and must be even more careful. In the end, it's just that Felix didn't want to think about the best for my family. Now he's finally reaping what he sowed. I looked at him and said, "Felix, don't forget that I am now someone else's mate, and you have your own mate. From now on, we will never see each other again." No, Felix, with red eyes, glared fiercely at Attekus. "Is it because of that hypocritical Attekus? If he dies, would you come back to me?" I was immediately startled and saw Felix quickly draw his sword and slash towards Attekus. "No, stop." Felix's movements were extremely fast. He was already strong, and the sudden drawing and swinging of his sword would be impossible for an ordinary one to react to. I was so scared that I screamed, but the blood I imagined didn't appear. Instead, there was a crisp sound of impact. Attekus had drawn his sword and blocked Felix's sword. Felix was clearly stunned. He frowned, instinctively raising his sword to stab again, but Attekus was faster. With a flick of his hand, the sword pinned Felix's hand to the table. Felix immediately let out a scream. Attekus looked at him coldly. Then his gaze fell on my face. At that time, I was frightened by Felix's ferocity and worried about Attekus being hurt, so my expression must have been extremely unpleasant. Attekus, afraid of scaring me, dropped his stern expression toward Felix and gave me a gentle smile. "I'm fine, don't worry." His tone contained no joy at his narrow escape from death, only reassurance for me. I looked at him, feeling touched and heartbroken, and hugged him, saying, "I'm glad you're okay." I looked up and glared at Felix. "Felix, I originally wanted to be polite to you, to end things with you in a decent way, but you actually attacked my mate. If you ever appear in front of me again, I definitely won't be this friendly." Felix's hand was still bleeding. He covered his hand and said aggrievedly, "Are you scolding me? I'm the one who's supposed to be hurt. You saw it just now. Attekus is so skilled. He doesn't look like he'd ever get injured. He's too hypocritical." I smiled. "Isn't that even better than, 'My mate is strong, so we can be together for a long time'?" His face paled, and he softly called my name. But I just held Attekus's hand tightly. Felix finally couldn't hold on any longer. Ignoring the blood all over his hands, he tried to take my hand, but Attekus frowned and slapped it away. Attekus glared at Felix like a fierce beast guarding its treasure. "Felix, this is the last time I'm being polite with you. If you bother Clara, I will definitely cause you trouble." Felix wanted to say something more, but this time the door to the private room was kicked open. A disheveled woman rushed in, sobbing. I looked up and saw that it was Valentina. The last time I saw Valentina, she was wearing the luxurious clothes Felix had given her, and she was arrogantly threatening me. But this time, she was wearing rough hemp clothing, and even her hair was dirty and messy. I looked at her, feeling puzzled. It's only been a few days since I left, and I don't know if it's because of the long journey to the Lupus Vigor pack, but she looks incredibly disheveled, and even her originally fair hands now look rough and coarse. She hugged Felix tightly and cried, "Felix, let's go back. I know I was wrong. I promise I won't lie to you again." Ah! Before she could finish speaking, Felix pushed her away violently. Valentina fell to the ground, covering her face and crying, "Clara, please forgive me." Her voice was shrill and miserable. I frowned, wondering what new kind of scam this was. She was the one who stole my mate. She was the victor, but now she's here crying and begging for my forgiveness. I said, "Valentina, I have nothing to do with you anymore. I didn't retaliate against you in any way. Why should I forgive you?" Valentina said, her face pale. "Felix ran off and left me alone on the day we held the mating ceremony. I became the biggest joke in the Moonclaw pack, and now I have no place to stand in the Moonclaw pack. Please, Clara, plead for me." I was stunned. I never thought that Felix would leave her alone. A woman needs to bond at 23, but if she is abandoned on the day of the mating ceremony, I'm afraid even an Omega won't choose her. Everyone will think that this person is very bad. I don't care how Felix treats Valentina, but I'm getting annoyed by them. It's clearly none of my business. My life is just starting to get better, but they keep bothering me. Even someone with the best temper would get angry. I looked at my mate Attekus and saw that he was looking at Valentina with displeasure, his eyes full of disgust. As if he sensed my gaze, he looked up at me, immediately changed to a gentle look, and asked, "Clara, what's wrong?" I understood what he meant and coughed softly. "Dear, we've been out for so long, it's time to go back." I thought they were coming to reminisce about old times, but I didn't expect them to come looking for trouble. If you see them in the future, please help me drive them away. If they cause trouble again, please handle it yourself. Don't consider my relationship with them." Attekus was taken aback and immediately said, "Of course, I will definitely not let anyone come to harass my Luna again." He glared at Felix and quickly followed my pace. I went back with Attekus. As soon as we entered the room, Attekus suddenly dropped to one knee. His sudden kneeling startled me, and I quickly reached out to help him up. But he said, "Luna, I lied to you." Before leaving, this man kept calling me Clara, but as soon as he saw Felix, he immediately called me Luna. I couldn't budge him after trying for ages, and I got angry too. I stared at him expressionlessly and asked, "What did you lie to me about?" Attekus hesitated for a second. What Felix said wasn't entirely false. "I did put in a lot of effort to ask your father to help you choose me." It turns out Attekus recognized me 4 years ago at Moonclaw Pack. At that time, I went out for a walk with the maid. I accidentally tripped over a vine, and just as I was at a loss, he passed by and helped me up. I knew you were my only mate the first time I saw you, but later I found out that you had already found your own fated mate. At the time, I only felt regret and hoped you would be happy. But a few days ago, I heard that your father was choosing a new mate for you, and after inquiring, I learned about your situation. So, I worked hard to become your choice. I looked at him and said quietly, "But I'm not your fated mate." Attekus smiled, calm and unwavering. "So what?" he said. "I only follow the voice of my heart, whether it's the moon goddess or some decree. None of it matters more than love. And I think you, more than anyone, would understand that." I pursed my lips. "So, you've always known me, but you pretended not to?" Attekus, having nothing to lose, spilled everything. "Yes, my good buddy said that telling you everything would easily scare you, so it's better to pretend not to know each other and start over." I sighed. "I don't blame you. Now that we're bonded, we naturally have to support each other well going forward." He obediently let me pull him up, and we stumbled towards the bed. Attekus supported himself above me, his eyes full of tenderness. That night, I had another dream. In the dream, there was a churning, turbulent black sea, gloomy enough to devour everything, terribly scary. I felt myself rising and falling with the waves, and a feeling of suffocation came over me. Suddenly, I heard Attekus's voice, and the storm disappeared without a trace. The originally turbulent sea slowly calmed down. A bright moon rose. The giant beast was no longer causing trouble, and a warm embrace enveloped me. I couldn't help but return the embrace. At this moment, the endless sea of suffering turned into sweet rain pouring down, and I only felt that all the hardships and unwillingness were completely eliminated. Sweet dreams. My life with Attekus slowly settled down, perhaps because I spoke fiercely last time. Felix really didn't come to harass me anymore, and I slowly emerged from the shadows. One day, I talked about this matter with Attekus's buddy, but I saw his brother look at me in surprise. "So, you don't know what Attekus did for you?" That Felix was thoroughly dealt with by Attekus. Even his leg was broken. It is said that since then he has indulged in pleasure all day long, and later his mate poisoned him to cripple his lower body. Felix, in a fit of rage, strangled his mate to death, and he himself was arrested by the Pack Federation. He's probably about to be executed now. I was stunned for a moment, then smiled. "Is that so? All right then. I have my own beloved, so whether Felix lives or dies naturally has nothing to do with me. My Luna, the new dress I made for you is ready." I looked at Attekus as he smiled and walked towards me. "Let's go home." "Okay, let's go home." I approached him and took his arm in mine. "From now on, we will be together, happily for a long time."